making videos to smoke or not to smoke. Just gonna share some things. I don't know why I brought that up when I said that, but there's something about that because I got a cigarette lit and I'm doing videos, and I know people get all discombobulated about that shit, but that's because they don't freaking know how brainwashed they are. And you know, I say that word brainwash, and I think people get really offended, but fuck, we're all brainwashed. We all have been, and maybe I should change that to grossly manipulated. You know, our teachings, our educational system, our religious systems, our medical systems. They're all not what we think they should be. Like, we think the medical industry should be healing us. How many of you are taking a pill for something? How many people are told they have to take a pill for the rest of their life or they're going to die? That's not a medical system of healing. That's a medical system of profit, you know. So one of my big, I don't know what you call it, discrepancies with many in the world is religions. Especially the three big, you know, the Abrahamic religion: Judaism, Islam, Christianity. Christianity especially gets me going in the sense that, you know, people are like, oh, just being with Jesus, you know, whatever they say, you know, it's like, well, leave it with Jesus, or, you know, I do say let go and let God, but I have a totally different perception of God. God is part of me, but not this part of me. Another part of me, another part of you. God's everything. That's the bottom line. Is God is everything. God is a umbrella term brought about, you know, for the control mechanisms we call religions. And I don't, you know, this is a tough one because I know a lot of Christians. I know a lot of Jewish people. I know even some Islamic people, and they're freaking wonderful. They are not, they're not what the stereotype is put out there. And that's where, you know, what I've learned over the decades is you can't, you know, not all Jews are freaking bad. Not all Jews are greedy, or not all Jews are cheap. You know, all the stereotypes. The I'm a firm, oh no, I don't say believer, but I very much think that the religions were constructed for ultimate control of the masses. Not good, not bad. I mean, some people love it, and I get it, you know. But again, this conditioning, this brainwashing, and it's literally brainwashing. It's controlling your mind. Government. Govern meant, it's two words. Govern, we know what that means. It means to control. And meant, in Latin, maybe Greek, means mind. Mind control. So, when you step out and see the bigger picture, you go, wow, this is interesting. Like, I got really pissed when I first was learning this and realizing, you know, the feelings that I had, especially about church, especially about going to school. I mean, God, school was just like the dumbest thing ever because I wasn't learning anything. I mean, I was learning stuff, but it wasn't relevant. Like, we spent a long fucking time talking about these explorers, you know, these whatever, Ferdinand and Christopher Columbus. That was like minor. But the whole thing just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense at all. And then the pyramids. I'm fascinated with Egypt and have been. The notion of these massive structures being put together by people of our caliber, we know that's not really possible. Even our technology that we have right now isn't adequate enough, you know? So, or at least, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not possible, but then but because of the amount of money it would cost, basically all the permits and all the fucking bullshit. But stop and think about it. And I dated an Egyptian, wonderful man, and firmly in the Egyptians built that. And you know what? Absolutely, absolutely. But through my studies and research, and listening to the experts that are not allowed to be mainstream, um, there's a different story behind that. We were told they were tombs for these pharaohs, and they weren't. They're not. With the discovery of the water underneath and the alignment of the shafts within it, that was a highly evolved civilization that was able to grasp those concepts. Where did they learn them? It's hard to say. We're told that our history as humans, or whatever, written history or something, and I think this comes from the Jews, from Judaism, because like they have a different year, like it's year 5,000 something right now. Our history only goes back like 6,000 years. I've heard Christians tell me, oh yeah, that the dinosaur bones are fake. That's like something God put there to test our faith. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And one of the, God, there's just so many facets to this. Dinosaurs, just getting on the subject of dinosaurs shortly, there was, I have the information somewhere, just not in front of me, but the word dinosaur didn't come about until I think sometime in the 1800s. Before dinosaur, it was dragons. And anybody with some common sense knows that God wouldn't create a dinosaur with these little fucking hands. You ever see a plucked chicken? Okay. So, there's that, the other thing that's really fascinating is the concept of disclosure of UFOs and aliens. And I laugh. I grew up in Las Vegas, outside of Area 51, and two sightings that I saw, myself with others, were featured on, I don't know if it was History Discovery, one of those cable channels, and it was pretty interesting to see that. I was actually in Phoenix back whenever that was, 94, 96, somewhere like that, whenever that big light. And it was very interesting. The conversation the night before was, it's too bad we don't have a telescope, because it was a pretty clear night, and my dad had a really nice observation area. He just never supplied the telescope for it, and then I was woke up by his wife telling me, "Oh my God, look what happened," So that's interesting. And again, so getting back to the disclosure, so to speak, there was officials gathered, a whole bunch of pastors and priests, and kind of briefed them on this, because for a long time now, we've been, people, when I say we, but, humanity's been told we're the only ones here. There's no other, we haven't found anything, so there can't be anything, kind of mentality. And holy cow, apparently this is a big deal in some of these religious places. And you say religion, like Christianity, there's like over 42,000 denominations of Christianity, and I don't know, not that many books, but there's thousands of versions of the Christian Bible. The Mormons got their own. The Catholics got their own. Their secondary book. However that works. Like, as a young person not growing up in a religious household, I looked at that um, with some questions like, how did they get a separate book? Like, what? How? I didn't understand the separation. That's what I didn't understand. Like, if you're this religion, you don't like that religion kind of mentality. I saw that. I literally saw that, especially among the Christians. And so that's kind of how I realized, oh, okay, so something's up with this. And that was, gosh, I was already, yeah, in my 30s or 40s, like when I actually seriously started studying, you know, going to church, different churches. Then I ended up studying. People came to the door. I studied with them. That was really great because I didn't have to get up, get dressed, and go anywhere. Very, yeah, I just, anyway, dress it up and all that kind of stuff. Because I just find that very fake. I just don't find that. I never found that to be like something the creator would want. Like, I just, there's just something about churches, synagogues, um, um, mosques. There, and then the mosque. Oh my God, you ever been in a mosque? Oh my gosh, they are gorgeous. These older ones with all the tiles and mosaics. They have the Quran written out and um, um, the Arab language. The characters. It's beautiful. Anyway, so there's a lot of bread and circus, as I call it. A lot of ways to draw you in. Um, and when I'm talking about the mosques, what I was kind of referencing is just it draws you in, and it's vast, and they're old. Some of these mosques, oh my goodness, they're like 1,000 years old, hundreds of years old, even more some. And you have to look at that um, in reference to how we are building stuff today. We are building we're building really crappy. I mean, there's some really cool architecture. I wanted to be an architect, but um, recreating what I was experiencing when I went to Europe a few times as a young person. These beautiful stone buildings that, I mean, been standing for hundreds of years. Why don't we build that? I'm watching buildings being washed away in tsunamis and falling down in earthquakes and thinking, why do we do this? There's lots of stone, there's lots of dirt, there's lots of that kind of building material. Why are we cutting down trees? And further learn that trees are, they all the plants, everything has a purpose here. But trees, they are rooted in the earth and grow to the heavens. Like, they are kind of like the interveners, the in-betweeners. And they relate to us. We relate to them. We've just forgotten that we're able to do that. Because of the religions and the governments and the medical institutions. Let me see what this looks like.